Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you're doing well. I thought I would jump on here to say hi because it's been a while. And the other thing I like to do is to tell you just how much I appreciate you. And look who just showed up, Boo Boo. He's such a good cat, he really is. And he's actually doing okay. He does have his good days and his bad days. Some days he eats more than other days. And some days he's more lethargic than other days. And today he seems to be doing okay. But he always likes to visit me. He's such a good cat and a good companion too. Come on, Boo Boo. Let me just put him on my lap. Hold on. Oh. Yes. Let me get my microphone. Okay, so now he's on my lap. Hopefully he'll stay there for a little bit. But he does kind of get in the way when I'm trying to do tutorials. But you know, like I've said many times, he's a senior cat, so I really don't mind. I spoil him as much as possible. But anyway, guys, like I was saying, I want to express my gratitude for your viewership because I don't always get to tell you, but I just want to let you know how much I appreciate you. Out of all the channels on YouTube, you chose mine today, and I'm extremely grateful. So anyway, guys, I'm so glad you're here because we're going to be making that gorgeous necklace that you saw in the intro, and it's inspired by Prince and the movie Purple Rain. But in my opinion, that necklace is influenced by, I would say, vintage maybe, and maybe gothic. But I think Prince was kind of a mix of all that. He was a very eclectic fellow. He really was. As you know, he wore a lot of lace, and he wore a lot of sparkly things and shiny fabrics and paisleys and brocades and heels. So he was a total mix of all kinds of things. But of course, his music was wonderful. I loved his music. And I still do. I still listen to it, believe it or not. So anyway, when I received the Didi Deluxe Bead box for the month of February, the first thing that came to my mind was a choker necklace. And then of course I had to add the chains to it because to me, that kind of represents gothic and vintage. And I think it turned out really nice. And today we're going to do some bead weaving. And I know some of you don't like that because maybe you're intimidated by it. I don't know. But today's project is actually very easy. There's a part at the end where I weave around the whole thing back and forth, which is a little confusing. But hopefully you won't get too confused about it. You can always skip that portion. And I do give you some alternatives. And my cat just jumped off my lap. So now what he's going to do next is he's going to jump back on the desk. That's what he does. It's really funny to watch. You're going to see him in just a few seconds. I keep stumbling over my words today. I don't know why. Here he comes. It never fails. But anyway, guys, we're going to be using the beads that came in Didi Deluxe Bead box for the month of February. And if you didn't get that box, don't worry because I'm going to leave a list of all the materials down below in the description section of this video. I also like to leave timestamps in case you want to skip forward to any portion of the video. Now, if you're not familiar with Didi Deluxe Bead box, I'll leave some information down below along with a link to the website and a coupon code in case you're interested. And don't forget that I always model my jewelry at the end of my videos, so please stick around for that. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And here we have Didi Deluxe Bead box for the month of February 2024. The name of this box is Purple Rain, in honor of the musical icon Prince. And he was actually one of my favorite artists in the 80s and 90s. I absolutely loved his music. I was fortunate enough to attend one of his concerts in Dallas, Texas during his Purple Rain tour, and I'll never forget it. It's actually the best concert I've ever attended in my entire life. I had such a great time. Now, I did do an unboxing video for this collection, and if you haven't seen it, I'll leave a link down below. I always go into great detail whenever I do unboxing videos. It's a good way to find out or familiarize yourself with bead boxes. So let me show you the beads we're going to be using. I've obviously been in this box already because it's a big jumbled mess, and there may be some beads missing. Now, when I first started thinking about this project, I focused mostly on Prince's fashion statement. As you know, he wore a lot of lace, a lot of satiny fabrics or shiny fabrics with intricate designs. And I don't know why a choker necklace came to mind. Maybe it's because his fashion style reminded me of something Victorian because he always wore those ruffled laces. But anyway, the first thing that came to my mind for a jewelry piece was a choker necklace. And what inspired this choker necklace was one of the beads in this bag. This is actually the Inspired by Czech's designer strand. And I have it in a bag because I had to remove the beads from the strand. But let me show you the bead that I wanted to use. I wanted to use this one right here. I love this one. It's a table cut flower. And I'm going to place this one in the center of the choker necklace. Now I want my necklace to have purple in it. And I really love these beautiful nuggets. But for today's project, I can't use them because we're going to be doing some bead weaving. And if you don't like bead weaving, don't panic because today's project is actually pretty easy. I promise you. So I want to use these here. I really love these. I love the sparkle and I love the color. These are faceted hexagon cut beads and they measure 6 millimeters in size, and this color is silver chrome. I want to definitely use these bicone beads. These are faceted bicone beads and the color is amethyst, and these measure 4 millimeters in size. For black, I'm going to use these right here. These are druzy beads and they're faceted round, as you can see, and these measure 6 millimeters in size. And I do want to use one of these beads. These are Czech glass rhombus shaped beads. The color is Mystic Smoky Gray with purple, and these measure 10 millimeters in size. And for the center drop, I'm going to use 2 of these right here. These are textured round connector links, and these measure 15 millimeters across. And I definitely want to use this chain. I love this chain. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. Let me pull it out. It's so pretty. As you can see, it has these dangles, it has leaves, and it has some little rhinestones as well. I think it's adorable. And that's it from this box. Let me show you what else we'll be using today. I'm going to be using some fire line, and this is 8-pound fire line. I'm using 8 pounds because some of the beads are going to be gemstones, the druzy beads, and they're a little bit heavier than other beads, but they're actually not that large. But I am going to run the thread through that table cut flower bead. So that's why I chose the 8-pound fire line, and this is in a smoke color, as you can see. And here I have some extended chains, some jump rings, a lobster clasp, and a ball head pin. These jump rings measure 6 millimeters in size, and these measure 5 millimeters in size. I'm going to use these to attach the center dangle as well as the chain swags, and these 2 are going to be for the clasp. And the reason I have 3 extended chains here is because I'm going to use 2 of them for the chain swags and 1 of them as an extended chain for the clasp. Here are some additional items. I'm going to be using some size 8/0 seed beads, and these are round Toho seed beads. Let me tell you the color. The color is nickel plated silver metallic, but you can use any silver colored seed beads. I like this color because it's a little bit darker than other silver colors. I have 2 size 10 needles, and I have these 2 little components here. They're called symbol bead endings. Let me see if I can pick one up and give you a close-up. These are used instead of wire guardians, and I absolutely love using these. They're very simple to use. They're actually supposed to be used with super duos, but I've actually used them with regular seed beads as well. And I don't know if you can see the hole on the side. Let me see if I can turn it. They're so tiny it's difficult to see. There's the hole, as you can see. So my fire line's going to go through that. And of course they come in handy because you can attach jump rings and your clasp to the loops. There are different kinds for different purposes, but I think the name of this one is Ramata. I'll leave the name in the list of materials down in the description section. So now that we've gone over everything, let's go ahead and get started. As you can see, I have all my beads lined up and my 2 little bead endings as well. I also have my needle threaded onto a piece of fire line, and my fire line is about 58 inches long, which is about my wingspan. But if you're a beginner, you might want to work with something a little bit shorter. I just don't like to run out of thread and then have to add some more. So I have a right side and a left side. I'm going to poke them onto the side of my workspace here because I can't poke it onto this mat. I have 2 foam bead mats on either side of my workspace. But don't worry, because I'm going to show you step by step how to do this. It's very simple, guys. And if you don't like bead weaving, I encourage you to try this because it really isn't that difficult. So the first thing we're going to do is slide on this bead ending and bring it to the center. Let me just find my center. So there it is. I'm going to place 1 needle to the left and 1 needle to the right of me. And now I'm going to load 2 seed beads with my right needle. These are the size 8/0 seed beads. And 1 of these bicones, just like that. I'm placing it down. And now I'm going to pick up my left needle. And I'm going to load 2 seed beads. Whoops. There we go. Slide them down. And now I'm going to take my right needle and place it down. And I'm going to take my left needle and go through that bicone and pull. I'm pulling both ends. So that's what you should have. So far, so good. Now let me double check again to make sure that it's in the center of my thread. And it's perfectly in the center, so that's good. So once again, I have a left needle and a right needle. And now let me show you this next sequence. I'm going to load 1 seed bead. This is my right needle. 2 bicones. 1 seed bead. And one of these 6mm druzy beads. And bring them down. And now with the left needle, I'm going to load a seed bead. 2 bicones. 1 seed bead and bring it down. And now I'm going to take the left needle and I'm going to go through the druzy in the opposite direction of where that thread is exiting from and pull. Let me grab both needles and pull. So this is what we have so far. And don't worry because everything will straighten out pretty quickly. Now I do want to reinforce this part where the clasp is going to go. So I'm going to take my right needle and I'm going to go through these beads here. I'm exiting out of the druzy. I'm going to go through the seed bead, the 2 bicones, the other seed bead, and pull. And if you'll notice there's a little space right there, I'm going to add a seed bead and go through these 2 and pull. So that's what we have so far. And now using the same needle, I'm going to go through the bead ending. And I'm going to place my needle down. And now I'm picking up this needle, which was on my left side, and I'm going to do the same thing, but in the opposite direction. So I'm going through the seed bead, the 2 bicones, the other seed bead, and pull. You want to give it a tug to tighten things up a little bit. And now I'm going to grab a seed bead and go through these 2 seed beads to fill in that gap. And pull. And now I need to go through the bead ending. Let me put it over this side. So this is what we have so far. Pretty simple so far. And don't worry because things will tighten up later on. And we're actually going to go through those beads again later to reinforce. So now let's continue. I'm picking up my right needle and I'm going to go through these beads, all of these seed beads like this, and the 2 bicones. And I'm going to go through the seed bead as well and the druzy bead. So that's what we have. And now I'm going to do the same thing with this other needle, the one that's on my left. I'm going to go through the seed beads, all 4 of them, and the 2 bicones. Through this seed bead here and the druzy bead. And pull. So now we're ready for the next unit. Let me just move this out of the way for the time being. So with the right needle, I'm going to pick up 1 seed bead, 2 bicones, one seed bead, bring them down, and a druzy bead. And bring that down. just like that. And now I'm picking up my left needle, and I'm going to pick up the same sequence minus the druzy bead. 1 seed bead, 2 bicones, 1 seed bead, and bring them down. And now with the left needle, I'm going to go through this druzy bead. So let me switch this needle to the left now. And I'm going in the opposite direction of that thread that's coming out. Let me pull. So that's what we have so far. And that's pretty much it, guys. It's very repetitive. But let me do one more with you. I have my right needle. I'm going to pick up a seed bead, 2 bicones, another seed bead, and 1 druzy bead. Bring them down. And now with the left needle, I'm going to pick up a seed bead, 2 bicones, a seed bead, bring them down. Let me take my right needle and switch it to this side. And I'm going to go through the druzy bead in the opposite direction so the threads crisscross. And pull. Let me just move these beads out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. So now I have another unit, and that's what I'm going to do until I get to the center of the choker. I'm just going to keep building these units one after the other in the exact same way. Now before I reach the center, I'm going to switch beads, and I'm going to use the larger hexagon beads to make it a little bit more interesting. And I want this choker necklace to be about 14 inches long. That's something you're going to have to figure out for yourself. What I recommend you do is that you measure the circumference of your neck just to make sure you get the right length before you start. But I like to add extended chains to my choker necklaces so that I have the option to adjust them if I need to. And I recommend that you do that with choker necklaces. So I'm going to keep going off camera until I get to the center, and then I'll show you how to build the focal part. So I'll see you in a few moments. Well, I'm back. As you can see, I've built quite a few units. There's a total of 8. So now we're going to switch to these beads, but we're going to continue with the same kind of pattern. Let me show you. So I have my left needle and my right needle. So once again, I'm going to load a seed bead and then 2 crystals, but I'm using these hexagon beads this time. And another seed bead and a druzy bead. Bring it down. And now using the left needle, I'm going to load a seed bead, 2 crystals, another seed bead, and I'm going to bring these down. Let me switch my right needle to the left. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pass my left needle through the druzy bead and pull. So that's what we have so far. And now I'm going to build 2 more just like this. As you can see, I've built 3 of these units, and now we're going to add the flower bead. and I'm going to switch back to the purple bicones, and it's the same thing. So I'm going to load 1 seed bead, 2 bicones, and this time 2 seed beads, and I'll explain why later on. And now the flower bead, and 1 seed bead. So that's what we have so far. And now on the other side, I'm going to load a seed bead, 2 bicones, another seed bead, bring it down, and just like before, I'm going to take my right needle to the left, and I'm going to take my left needle, and I'm going to go through the seed bead, and now the flower bead, and I'm also going to go through the seed bead here. Let me see if I can get it in there. There we go. And pull. You definitely want to take out the slack. Things will tighten up a little bit more later on once we embellish with more beads. But anyway, the reason I added an extra seed bead at each end is because the flower bead only has 5 petals, which means that it may not sit straight, because on this end you have 1 rounded petal and on this end you don't. And I don't want to have to be fiddling with it constantly. So I think by adding an extra seed bead, it should prevent that from happening. So now we're going to continue with the purple bicones on this side. So once again, I'm picking up a seed bead, 2 bicones, another seed bead, and a druzy bead. And on the left needle, I'm picking up a seed bead, 2 bicones, another seed bead. I'm taking my right needle to the left, and I'm going to pass my left needle through the druzy bead. So now that I've added the center focal, I'm going to switch back to the hexagon beads. So I'm going to pick up a seed bead, 2 hexagon beads, another seed bead, and a druzy bead. And on the left needle, I'm picking up a seed bead, 2 hexagon beads, a seed bead. I'm going to put my needle down, and now I'm going to take my right needle and move it to the left, and with my left needle I'm going to go through the druzy bead in the opposite direction and pull. So now I've attached one of the 3 units. So anyway guys, I'm going to continue building these units. I'm going to build 2 more of the hexagon units, and then I'll switch back to the purple bicones and build 8 of those. So to save time, I'm going to do it off camera, and then I'll come back and attach the bead ending, and we'll embellish the entire thing with more beads. So I'll see you in a few moments. Okay, I'm back, and I'm almost at the end. Let me slide it down. As you can see, I have 7 units, and I have to add 1 more plus the bead ending, just like we did on this side. So let me go ahead and do that. With my right needle, I'm going to pick up 1 seed bead, 2 bicones, 1 seed bead, and this time 1 bicone. And with my left needle, I'm going to pick up 1 seed bead, 2 bicones, and 1 seed bead. And I'm going to take my right needle to the left, and with my left needle, I'm going to go through that last bicone, like this, and pull both ends. So now let's add the little bead ending. I'm going to pick up 2 seed beads, and the bead ending. Let me just go this way. And with my left needle, I'm going to pick up 2 seed beads, and I'm going to go through that bead ending. So my threads crisscross inside that bead ending. Let me just pull on these tails a little bit. So that's what we have. So now I'm going to go ahead and reinforce that just like we did before. So I'm picking up my right needle, and I'm going to go down these 2 seed beads, let me just tighten it up a little bit. I'm going to pick up 1 seed bead and go through the next one to fill in that gap, and the 2 bicones and the seed bead on the other side of the 2 bicones, like this, and pull. And now I'm going to go through the druzy bead, and I'm going to go up this side. So I'm going through the seed bead, the 2 bicones, the other seed bead on the other side of the 2 bicones, I'm going to pick up a seed bead and go through these 2 seed beads on this side of the bead ending. And now let me go through the bead ending, and I'm back at the beginning. So now with this needle, I'm going to go through the same thread path. So I'm going through all 4 seed beads, the 2 bicones, and the seed bead on this side, like this. I'm going through the druzy bead, through the seed bead and 2 bicones, and now through all 4 seed beads on this side. And now the bead ending. Just like that. Now this thread is getting kind of short, but we actually don't need it anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and tie it off. And that's very easy to do. I'm going to go through these seed beads again, all 4, and through the 2 bicones as well, and the seed bead at this end. Let me just pull that tail out. And now I'm going to pass my needle underneath this thread bridge like this and go through this loop here, like this, and pull. So now I've created a knot, and now I'm going to go through the druzy bead, and I'm going to find another thread bridge on this side, like this, pull, so I have a loop, and go through the loop, and then pull. Let me just pull on this one to tighten things up a little bit. So that's 2 knots. Let me go through the seed bead and the 2 bicones and the other seed bead on the other end. Go underneath this thread bridge, create a loop, and go through the loop and pull. And I'm going to go through this druzy bead and pull. And I think that's enough knots. So I'm going to remove the needle. And I'm going to burn off this thread. I have my thread burner here. This one's pretty old. I don't even know if they make it anymore. It's called Fiber Fuse, and it's battery operated. And as you can see, I've used it quite a bit. So now I have this one here, which is getting kind of short. So I guess I'll tie this one off as well. I'm going to go through these seed beads, the 2 bicones, and I'm going to go through the next seed bead, and these 2 bicones as well, and this other seed bead. So I'm just traveling down the side, and I don't want my thread to get too short. So let me go ahead and pass underneath this thread bridge, go through the loop, and pull. I'm going to go through the next seed bead, the 2 bicones and the other seed bead, go underneath this thread bridge. Let's see if I have room. I do, and pull. I barely have enough thread. Let me go through this druzy bead. It's getting very, very short. So let me go ahead and tie off a 3rd knot here on this side. I'm going to go underneath this thread bridge, go through the loop, and pull. Go through the druzy bead again, pull my knot inside, and I'm going to burn off my thread. Let me just flip it this way. Now I did want to show you what this bead does. It does spin around a little bit, but because I added the 2 seed beads, one at the top and one at the bottom, it sits pretty straight. Had I not added those 2 seed beads, it makes it a little bit crooked. But as you can see, it does spin around a little bit. Once it's on your neck though, it should stay flat. So now I'm going to get myself another piece of thread, and this time I'm working with 1 needle only, and this is about another wingspan, about 58 inches. And you can attach it to any end, so let me go ahead and attach it to this end. I'm going to go through the seed bead, this first seed bead, the 2 bicones, and then the 4 seed beads, just like that. And I'm going to leave myself a 6-inch tail, maybe a little bit longer. And now let me go through the bead ending. Through these 4 seed beads, and I'm exiting out this 1 bicone, the first bicone. So that's what we have so far. As you can see, my thread is in between these two bicones. And now I'm going to add one of these hexagon beads. And I'm actually going to have to get some more. And I'm going to go through the bicone on this side, heading in the direction of the bead ending. And I'm going through the 4 seed beads, as you can see, and pull. So now I've embellished that first unit with a hexagon bead. I'm going to go through the bead ending again. And now I'm going to go through the 4 seed beads again and through that first bicone, just like this. And now I need to go through the hexagon bead again to reinforce. And down this bicone, and I'm exiting out that seed bead, the one that I started from. So now what I want to do is create a little knot with this tail. And we'll get rid of this tail later on. So now I'm going to go through this first seed bead and the first bicone like this and pull. I'm going to pick up one of these hexagon beads, bring it down, and I'm going to place it in the middle of this unit like this. And now I'm traveling down this bicone and the 2 seed beads on this side and the bicone on the other side of the 2 seed beads like this. Pull. I'm going through the hexagon bead again and pull, and that reinforces it even more. And now let me go through this bicone, the 2 seed beads, the first bicone, and pull. And once again, I'm going to go through this hexagon bead like this and pull through the first bicone and the 2 seed beads and the next bicone on the other side like this and pull. So now we have 2 hexagon beads attached. I think it looks really nice. So I'm going to pick up another hexagon bead, go through this first bicone, the 2 seed beads, the next bicone, and pull. Position that bead in the middle like this. Go through the hexagon bead that I added in the previous round. Go back through the first bicone, the 2 seed beads, and the next bicone, and pull. Go back through the hexagon that I just added. As you can see, I keep turning my work so that I have better access. I hope it's not confusing you. And I'm going to go through this first bicone, the 2 seed beads, and the next bicone, and pull. The goal is to bring the seed beads together, by the way, these two on the side. So we're going to make a couple of rounds back and forth. Let me get some more hexagon beads. Here's a few more. So once again, I'm going to pick up a hexagon bead. Go through this bicone. So I'm going backwards now. The 2 seed beads on the side, and the next bicone. Tighten things up. Go through the hexagon bead that I added in the previous round. The next bicone, the 2 seed beads, and the bicone on the other side. And now I'm going to go through the hexagon bead I just added. Go through the bicone, the 2 seed beads, and the next bicone in the next unit, and pull. So that's what it looks like so far. Let me do a few more with you. Once again, I'm going to add a hexagon bead. And place it in the middle. And I'm going to go backwards now. So I'm going to go this way. I'm going through the first bicone, the 2 seed beads, and the next bicone, and pull. And now I'm going to go through the hexagon bead that I added in the previous round. And I'm going to go through this bicone. So now I'm traveling back towards the hexagon bead that I just added, the 2 seed beads, and the first bicone. And back through the last bead that I just added. I hope that's making sense. Let me do it one more time. I'm going through the next bicone, so now I'm traveling away from the end where I started, the 2 seed beads, and then the next bicone on the other side. And my cat just appeared, so let me go rescue him. It certainly makes it challenging to film with a kitty cat, but he's a senior cat, so I'll do anything for this cat at this point. So anyway, that's what we have so far. And now we're ready to add another hexagon bead. So I'm going to travel backwards now. I'm going to go through this first bicone, the next 2 seed beads, and then the next bicone, and pull. It's kind of like you're going in circles. You're traveling forward and then you're traveling back. So now I'm going to go through the hexagon bead that I added in the previous round. Let me just untangle myself here. And I'm going to travel towards the bead that I just added. So I'm going through the first bicone, the 2 seed beads, the next bicone, and pull. And now I'm going to go through the hexagon bead that I just added. And pull. I'm going through the bicone, the 2 seed beads, and the next bicone towards the unit that needs the bead. And that's basically how I'm going to do the entire thing. So let me keep going until I get to the flower portion, and then I'll show you how to get around that one. So I'll see you in a few moments. Okay, I'm at the last purple unit, and I'm getting ready to add some beads to this section. But before I do that, I want to get rid of this tail. I've already attached a needle to it, and it's the same thing that we did before. I'm simply going to go through some beads until I get to a thread bridge. And now I'm going to go underneath this thread bridge, go through the loop and pull, go through the hexagon bead, and now I'm going to go through this bicone and the next seed bead. Actually, let me see if I can go through this one as well, and the first bicone. And now let me see if I can grab a thread bridge, go underneath like this, and go through the loop. Go through this hexagon bead, and I'm going to go ahead and burn off my thread. That's enough knots. And my air conditioning unit just turned on. I'm sure you can hear it. Normally I would stop filming, but I really want to get this done today. So I apologize for that. But anyways, you can see I'm at the final unit before the hexagon beads. So I'm going to pick up a hexagon bead, go through this bicone. So now I'm traveling backwards, and the next 2 seed beads, and the next bicone. I'm going to travel through the hexagon bead that I added in the previous round. Through the bicone on this side, the 2 seed beads, and the next bicone. And back through that last hexagon bead. So now I'm traveling towards the center. So I'm going to go through this first bicone, the next 2 seed beads, and the first hexagon bead. I'm going to pick up a hexagon bead, go through this hexagon bead, the next 2 seed beads, like this, and then this first bicone, and pull. And that pops that big bead in the center. So now we need to go through this hexagon bead, through the bicone, the 2 seed beads, the next hexagon bead, and back through the one that I just added in the center, like this. And that's how you attach that one. So now I'm going to do the other 2, and then I'll show you how to get around that flower bead. Okay, I've added the last hexagon bead, and now I'm going to go through this one, the 2 seed beads, the next 2 bicones. I actually have to add some seed beads at this point, so here are 2 more. I'm going to pick up a seed bead, go through the next one, because I want to fill in that gap, and the 2 bicones. So now that seed bead has filled that gap, as you can see, and now I'm going to go through these 2 seed beads, and the first hexagon bead. And now let me pick up another bead. I'm going to position it in the middle like this. And now I'm traveling back towards the flower. So I'm going to go through this hexagon bead, the 2 seed beads, the next 2 bicones, the next seed bead, I'm going to pick up this one now and go through the following seed bead. So I'm skipping the one in the middle by the flower, the 2 bicones, the next 2 seed beads, and the hexagon bead. So that's what we have. And now I'm going to go through the hexagon bead that I added in the previous round. Through this one now, and the 2 seed beads, the 2 bicones, the next 3 seed beads, the next 2 bicones, and the following 2 seed beads. And now I'm going to go through this first hexagon bead and back through the one that I added in the previous round, or in this round I should say. And don't worry, because we're going to reinforce the whole thing one more time after we get to the end. So now I'm going to go through this bead here, the 2 seed beads, and the next hexagon bead, and I'm going to continue adding the hexagon beads to each unit, just like I did on this side. So let me go ahead and do that off camera. I'll keep adding them until I get to the end, and I'll be right back. Well, I'm almost at the end, as you can see. I just have to add 1 bead to this unit. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to pick up one of the beads, the hexagon faceted beads. I'm going to go through this bicone. So I'm going backwards now through the 2 seed beads and the next bicone. And now I'm going through the hexagon bead that I added in the previous round. Through this bicone, the 2 seed beads, and the next bicone. And back through the bead that I just added. And now I'm going to go up this next bicone and up towards the bead ending. So I'm going through these 4 seed beads, through the bead ending, and by the way, I did end up adding more thread off camera because I ran out. So you may have to do that several times depending on how long your thread is. So now I'm going to go through these seed beads, all 4 of them, and through the bicone, the first bicone, And now I'm simply going to reinforce each one of these beads that I added in the center. So I'm going to go through this one, this hexagon bead, through this bicone, and the first seed bead like this, I'm going to go through the druzy, through the next seed bead and the bicone, and back through this hexagon bead. So you're pretty much zigzagging is what you're doing through the entire piece. So now I'm going to go through this bicone and the first seed bead, through the druzy, through the seed bead and the first bicone, through the hexagon bead, through the bicone, and the first seed bead. And now through the druzy bead. And I'm going to do that until I get to the other end. And you can reinforce as many times as you want to. And if you see any gaps like this one right here, you can go back and fix them. So for example, I'm seeing these 2 gaps here and these 2 gaps here. So I'm actually going to go backwards now to fix that. It's no big deal. So I'm going to go through the seed bead and these 2 bicones, and then the following 2 seed beads, like this, and pull through these 2 bicones and these 2 seed beads as well, like this, and pull. And now let me go through this next bicone. Just this one, not both of them, because it's getting kind of tight up here. And I'm going through the hexagon bead again. And back down this side. So I'm going to go through the bicone, the 2 seed beads, the next 2 bicones, the next 2 seed beads, the next 2 bicones, and the next 2 seed beads as well. Might as well do that. So now my seed beads are closer together, as you can see. So that's another way you can reinforce. Let me go down this hexagon bead. And down this bicone and the 2 seed beads, because I want to bring them together. And then this next bicone. And now this hexagon bead. another bicone, and these 2 seed beads, and the next bicone. And up through this hexagon bead again. Back through this bicone, these 2 seed beads, and the next bicone. Because I want to bring those seed beads together a little bit more. And now I think I'm going to go back to my zigzagging. So I'm going to go through this hexagon bead, this bicone, and I'm seeing a gap there, so I'm going to go through these next 2 seed beads and the next bicone. Let me go down this hexagon bead. Down this bicone and the first seed bead. This druzy bead because I need to reinforce this one. And then back down this side to the next set of beads. I'm going to go through the seed bead, the 2 bicones, and the next seed bead, like this. Reinforce this druzy bead. Go through the next seed bead, the next bicone, the hexagon bead. So I'm back to the zigzagging, guys, okay? I know it's a little confusing because I did get off track there. But when you see a gap, you really need to take care of it. So there's a gap right there. So I'm just going to go through this bicone and these 2 seed beads and the next bicone over, like that. And pull down the hexagon bead. Down this bicone. I'm going backwards now because I need to reinforce that druzy that I missed, and the first seed bead. So now I'm going to go through the druzy bead, and the next seed bead, and the next 2 bicones, like that. The first seed bead, and now this druzy bead, like this. And I'm seeing a gap there, so I'm going to have to go this way. Up through this bead here in the center. Through this next one, and the 2 seed beads and the next bicone over. Through the hexagon bead in the middle. The next bicone, the next 2 seed beads, and the next hexagon bead. I know it's a little confusing, but basically you're going to go through all the beads one more time. And if you have to go backwards and reinforce some of the seed beads, then you should do it. Another way to do it is to reinforce the center beads first in one round, and then go back the sides to bring the seed beads together. That's another way to do it if you want to keep things simple. But then you have to use a lot more thread, and the beads may get really tight. So I'm going to keep going till I get to the very end. And when you get to the center, it's the same thing. You're going to go down these beads, through the flower bead, and back down to the next one, and just zigzag back and forth like I showed you. And if you need to bring the seed beads together, then do it. So I'm going to keep going till I get to the very end. And when I get to the end, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go up the seed beads, through the bead ending and back down the other side. And then I'll tie off the thread and we'll move on to the next step. So I'll see you in a few moments. Well, I'm back. And as you can see, I reinforced the entire choker necklace. I'm pretty happy with it. I know it's a little bit confusing when I was showing you how to do that, but sometimes that's how I roll. I try to keep things as organized and as structured as possible, but sometimes I kind of freestyle things. But anyway, I did want to show you something. Because of the shape of this flower, this part curves up a little bit more than the bottom part, but that's okay because we're going to be adding a dangle from the bottom and also some chain swags, so you won't even notice it. So now we're going to add the clasp. I have two 4mm jump rings and a lobster clasp. I was going to use 5mm jump rings, but I changed my mind. Actually, there may be 4.5mm. Here's an extended chain, a ball head pin, and a druzy bead. I'm going to create a little dangle for the extended chain. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to slide the druzy bead onto my ball head pin, like this. I'm going to grab the ball head pin with my round nose pliers at the top of the bead, bend it, switch to this part of the pin, wrap the pin around the nose of my pliers, flip the pliers around, continue to wrap to the back, and now I'm going to open up this loop, and now let me slide the extended chain onto the loop that I just created. Like this. And now using these pliers, they have a very thin tip. I'm going to grab that loop. Let's see if I can grab it. Let me bend it up a little bit. Using another set of pliers, I'm going to grab the tail and do a couple of wraps. Using flush cutters, I'm going to snip off the excess. And if you see a sharp end, you should tuck it in. So now this is done. Now this extended chain is about 2 inches long, which is pretty standard. You can either leave it like that or trim it. Sometimes I trim them because I don't like them so long, but I think I'm going to leave it like that. So now let me open up this jump ring. I'm going to slide the clasp onto the jump ring and slide it onto the loop of the bead ending. Let me close it. Doesn't that look nice? I love it. I love these bead endings. Let me open up this jump ring. Slide the extended chain into it and slide it onto the loop of this bead ending and close it. So this choker necklace is almost done. We still need to attach the dangle in the front, or the drop, and the chain swags. But I really like it. I think it's adorable. So let me get the materials for the drop and the chain, and we'll finish off the necklace. Here are the materials for the drop. I have a ball head pin. I have two of the connector links, which measure 15mm across. I have the rhombus flower bead, which measures 10mm across, and I have a 6mm jump ring. So let me show you how to do this. I'm going to slide the bead onto the ball head pin like this. Using my round nose pliers, I'm going to grab the pin at the top of the bead like this, bend it, switch to this part of the pin, and I'm going to make a pretty big loop, so I'm sliding down the barrel of my pliers. I'm going to wrap the tail around the nose, flip the pliers around, Continue to wrap to the back. Let me open up this loop a little bit more. Slide one of these connectors into it, like this. And now let me grab that loop with my skinny pliers. Grab the tail and do a couple of wraps. Snip off the excess. And if you see anything sharp, you need to tuck it in. Let me straighten out my loop a little bit. And that's what it looks like. And now we're going to connect these two with a jump ring. So let me open it up. Slide this connector into it and slide this other one as well and close it up. And there's my drop. And by the way, I'm filming this the next day in the morning, so I may sound a little different. It got really late last night and I ran out of energy, so I had to stop filming. So now let me get the chain and the choker necklace. Here's my necklace. Here's my fancy chain. And here are the two smaller pieces of chain. I think those links measure 3 by 5 millimeters, and it's curved chain. Here are some more jump rings. I actually need a total of 8, so here's an extra one. And I'm probably going to need an extra jump ring for the drop, but I'll bring that out later on. Now before I attach this drop, I'm going to attach the chain to make it easier, but you can do it any way you want. So let me put this off to the side for the time being. I'm going to go ahead and attach the smaller pieces of chain first. Let me open up a jump ring. I'm going to slide the last link into the jump ring like this, and I'm going to attach it through this opening here, if I can get it in there. Let me open it up a little bit more to make it easier. There we go. And now let me close it. So I've attached that end, and now we have to attach this one. And I'm thinking it should go through this opening. Let me open up a jump ring. You want to check to make sure your chain isn't all twisted up. The best way to do it is just to let it hang down. Let me just make sure I attach it to the correct opening. I think I said this one right here. And if it's the wrong one, I can always reconnect it. Let's take a look. I think that's the correct one. So now I'm going to attach this one on this side the same way. So now I've attached both swags. And now we're going to attach this one. And before I attach it, I want to make sure the dangles are hanging properly. So the best thing to do is to lay it out flat like this. I'm going to take advantage of the little jump rings in between these components. And as you can see, they're all parallel to my mat, which is what I want, because the jump ring is going to be vertical and it's going to attach to the choker necklace. In other words, whatever I attach to those jump rings, which are vertical, needs to be horizontal or parallel to the mat. I now have to decide which dangles I want and how long each piece needs to be. So let me just put it up here and see if I can estimate. I want to attach it to this opening here. Let me place the drop here and see how it looks. I think I want this one a little bit shorter. That looks about right. And I do want all of these dangles, but I think I'm going to remove that one because it's just going to get in the way of the drop. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to sacrifice it because I want to keep the jump ring that connects these two curved components. So I'll have to snip off the loop of that dangle. And I'm also going to have to snip off this curved piece, but that's okay. It's a small sacrifice considering we're going to end up with a beautiful choker necklace. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to snip off the dangle first. And now I'm going to snip off this curved piece. Actually, I've changed my mind. I'm going to save this curved piece and attach a small jump ring instead. I think that's a better choice. That way I won't be feeling so bad. Let me just move it out of the way for the time being. Here's a 4mm jump ring. I believe it's 20 gauge. You need a thin gauge because it needs to fit through the hole of that component. Let me go ahead and open it up. Connect it to the component. Like this. Close it. And now let me open up one of these jump rings. Connect it to this little one. Let me make sure I do it correctly. And now I'm going to hook it onto the focal part and close it. So now I just need to connect the other end. Actually, I need to remove this component as well. I just remembered. Now this one I will have to sacrifice. I'm going to have to cut this one off, but that's okay. There we go. Let me open up another jump ring. Connect it to this little one here. Like this. Double check to make sure everything's hanging properly, and it is. So that's what we have so far. I think it looks really, really cute. I hope you like it as well. Let me get a piece for the other side now. Here's a mirror image. I went ahead and cut it off camera. The magic of video editing. So now I'm going to go ahead and connect it the same way in the exact same spots. So now I have my beautiful chain spikes connected, and I think it looks adorable. It really does. It's super gorgeous and very prince-like. Or maybe it's Apollonia. She was his girlfriend in the movie. And I think she did wear some kind of choker necklace in the movie, now that I think about it. Here's my drop. And here's a jump ring. Now before I open up this jump ring, I'm going to try to open up the little opening between these two seed beads, because it's pretty tight in there. And you can use a pin or any kind of metal. I'm just going to insert this piece of metal through this little gap here, because I want to be able to fit the jump ring through there. So I'm just kind of spreading the seed beads apart. And that should be good enough. Let me open up this jump ring now. Connect my drop. And I'm going to slide the jump ring through this opening. Hopefully it'll go through. There it goes. And now let me close it. And there's my beautiful prince-inspired choker necklace, inspired by the movie as well, Purple Rain. What do you think, guys? Do you like it? I think it's super adorable. Of course, I'm going to model it for you. And by the way, this portion here, let me just tell you how long that is. It measures about 4.5 inches, I would say. And like I said, the center focal is about 1 inch, but the entire necklace is 14 inches. And of course the extended chain is 2 inches, so if you wanted to adjust it, you could. So anyway, guys, let me go ahead and put it on, and I'll see you in a few moments.